To miss Jim Gurke, who's our special guest brother today. One of the joys of doing this campaign has been re-engaging and meeting for the first time studs from other eras. And Jim, it's been a pleasure. You've been inspirational, and I'm going to ask him a few questions, and he's going to give us some good answers. He grew up in Wheaton, Illinois. He'll tell you more about that. Wheaton Central specifically. He said he graduated from there. I haven't seen his diploma, but that's what he told me. And he's a 7750. And we're going to have some nice back and forth with Jim right now. And I know you'll enjoy our time together. So, Jim, thanks so much for jumping in and helping us out here. I know you spent 35 years in sales and marketing out in the Northwest area with Getty Images, the chief marketing officer. And you and your wife, Chris, live in Lake Shulin, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I'm trying to get it right. They don't let me out of Illinois very often, so I'm not real good with names. But and your son,
it's Lake Chelan.
Thank you so
right,
much,
Jim.
That's it. You got it.
Apologize. My parole officer won't let me leave the state, so that's a big help for me. And but his son Joey's 29 years old, and he's very proud of him. I hope to tell us a little bit about him. And so, Jim, give us thanks for joining us. Tell us about your years before attending Illinois and then pledging to you. What led you to our home?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kevin. I appreciate it. And it's good to see all this hard work from you and your fellow committee members. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Good to see everybody. So again, thanks for having me. Yeah, as you said, Kevin, I grew up in Wheaton, Illinois, with my parents. We had 4 kids. I had 2 brothers, 1 sister. I did attend Wheaton Central. I did, in fact, graduate from there, or at least I used a diploma to get into Illinois. But Wheaton Central is a storied institution that you've probably heard from before with some of my fellow brothers. But Wheaton Central was also the home of Red Grange, the Galloping Ghost, that has played a significant role at Illinois. When I was in the marching band there at Wheaton Central, we played on Grange Field all those years. Didn't really know what that meant until I was at Illinois. So that was pretty cool. Also had at Wheaton Central, Bob Woodward, several years, ahead of me, of the Woodward and Bernstein fame. And when I was at school, the 2 Belushi brothers, John and Jim Belushi, attended our school. So that was a blast. Those were 2 very interesting dudes at a high school level, and I'm not surprised that they went on to their own fame. But Wheaton Central had its own sort of very cool people in the form of alums that became DUs in our 70s era. So that was that's pretty fun. I went to high school with Bob Schleicher, who was our high school valedictorian. Went on to become a DU, as you all know. Walker Geyer, John Buist, Rob Graff. I know there's others. An honorable mention to a guy named Gary Gressley, who some of you know, but he went to Wheaton North, so we don't need to give him any more props. So sadly, and this will tie a little bit into what we're going to talk about later, but sadly, Wheaton Central had since been torn down and is now in downtown Wheaton, a Mariano's grocery store. So talk about a legacy gone wrong. It's a high school that's no longer there. So I'm sad for that. It was a beautiful old building.
Give us a sense as what led to Illinois, and probably more importantly, what led to 12 East Armory? When I was senior in high school, or getting ready to apply to colleges, I knew at least I thought I wanted to be a civil engineer, of all things, build bridges and cool things like that. And, I knew from in-state situation that U of I was a great school, and great engineering school. So I figured I would apply to there, and I was lucky enough to get in. I don't think I would get into Illinois today. I think back then it was a little easier to get into that big state school. But so that was an easy one to go to, to pick Illinois amongst those that I had applied for. So when I got to Illinois, let's say 3 or 4 majors later, 5-year plan, ended up with a degree in economics and a minor in architecture, of all things. Architecture was one of the majors before it became a minor. But as for DU, I think it's probably similar to what everybody on this call would say. I would assume, and that's the the brotherhood, the fun, the friendships that you could see that were going to be able to be formed if I was able to be joined. And the house itself, I just loved that house. I thought it was a cool old place. And if you think about it, at that time, the house was almost exactly 50 years old when I pledged in 74. So the house was built in 1926, and it's now 100 years old. So it's a couple of really interesting milestones as it relates to my time at the house. But I went through informal rush that freshman year with Schleicher, with Bob, amongst others, and I was pretty well sold when two brothers from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, Pete and Dick Ridley, came to my dorm room. This was during the informal rush period. Came to my dorm room, Taft Hall, down by the stadiums, and they had heard that I was a hockey player, and so they asked me if I wanted to join the DU intramural hockey team. So I thought, this is pretty freaking cool. I'm going to do that, and hopefully they'll let me join the fraternity itself. And but it was really the guys that caused me to want to join, and I'm sure that it's the same as everybody else, but it made the decision an easy one. The nature of the people that I met and all that.
Well, just give us a quick overview of your time after you finished your 5-year plan at Illinois. What's happened since then?
Right after college, I was married briefly to my then college girlfriend, Barb, who I met at Boney's. Does anybody remember the bar Boney's? Boney's was a campus town bar in our era. I was assistant manager at the time, and I met Barb at the bar, and we got married not too long after that. She happened to be a Kappa Alpha Theta, so I was pretty chuffed to be hanging with a Theta. And but that marriage lasted all of 3 years, and went on to find my life partner and my bride of now 36 years, Chris, who we met together in Naperville when I was living there, working downtown Chicago. So it's been a great sort of family life from that standpoint. We had one young son as I embarked on a sales and marketing career that led to the year 2000 when we were transferred to Seattle I took on a big promotion at my company, Getty Images, which was, I don't know if you've heard of Getty Images, but it's a big company, billion-dollar company in the digital content space. And I was asked to head up sales for North America, good size sales organization, but I had to move to Seattle to do it, and I loved it. So our young family moved to Seattle, did that for, 12 more years until 2013, when after 2 transactions with private equity firms, one in California and one in New York, bought us 2 different times, bought Getty. I was able to retire early in 2013, and we never looked back. So we built our dream home out here in Lake Chelan. It's in the other side of the mountains from Seattle, and have enjoyed life here, staying active with nonprofits. The main nonprofit I've been associated with is the Seattle Aquarium. I've been on the board of directors there for the last almost 20 years.
That's fabulous. What a great volunteer. I'm sure you learned how to volunteer. Back to you.
I should mention one thing, Kevin. You mentioned my son, Joey. I wanted to express the pride I have in him. Joey is a 29-year-old now, but he's in the U.S. Navy and is in Virginia Beach and serving in a pretty elite special ops unit of the Navy. He dives, he jumps out of airplanes. He's in harm's way often. So just wanted to give him a shout out for the pride I have in his commitment that he's made to the country.
As well you should. We're all lucky to have him helping us. Nice job. Good parenting. Tell us about some of your reflections on DU of the house. And I know we spoke ahead of time. There had some emotional components to this. If you don't mind sharing a little bit, I think it's very relevant to what we're talking about today.
Yeah. When I pledged DU, as I said, 50 years ago right now, I just had no idea what kind of impact the fraternity would have on my life. At the time, of course, it was all about fun, making friends, partying, enjoying the brotherhood to be. But as much fun as that was, I was also well aware during my time at DU at the house that this was a house filled with really strong students, strong men, strong brothers, future mentors for me in the house and otherwise, not just upperclassmen above me, but those in my class and beyond. It just became a really, really exciting time for me in college, and I loved my time at DU at Illinois. But and maybe this is the same as you guys, but for me, the biggest impact on me has been the biggest surprise. And what makes DU special for me is the lifelong friendships that have struck. I had no idea that would be the case. When I was an undergrad and I'd see old guys coming back for homecoming, I thought, man, what brings him here? Or, for the football game and maybe a visit to the house. But the lifelong friendships is what's really standing out, Kevin, for me. And it was proven, you talked about a personal thing I shared with you the other day, but it was just 2 years ago now. I was stricken suddenly with a really debilitating disease. Very surprised. It's an autoimmune disease called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And within about 4 hours that morning, I was admitted to the emergency room, fully paralyzed up to my neck for the better part of 6 weeks. Had to basically go through life-saving treatment and in the ICU for 3 weeks, physical therapy for another 3 weeks inpatient. And during that time, it was a pretty dark period and pretty scary period, but the outpouring of support from the brothers, dozens and dozens of brothers, has just been an incredible source of healing for me and just reminding me of what's important in life. And I have to give a shout out to Kim Cox, 76. Many of you know Kim. His father was at DU, but Kim has been instrumental in keeping together many of the brothers from the 60s, 70s, and 80s with a big giant email chain that we all, stay together with, and it's caused us to get together with trips and friends and all that kind of stuff. So I just think that it's the lifelong friendships that has been the enduring thing for me, and actually the relationship with my DU brothers has been, I think, the highlight of my life.
That's fabulous. Thanks for sharing the story. I'm glad you're on the other side of your challenge.
Yeah,
it sounds
definitely.
Like you guys really made a difference. Not surprised, not at all. So why now? What moved you to participate generously in this campaign financially?
I've given some bucks here and there, through the years to the various campaigns. There's been several, the basketball court, the, repair and maintenance stuff, get your name on a little plaque kind of things through the years. But when I heard about this campaign, it felt absolutely transformational. I mean, the house was at risk of being razed, meaning coming down altogether. It's a 100-year-old house, and it's a magnificent house in its own right. The style of the house, the bones, the stories, if those bones could talk kind of thing. My time at that house was something that I treasure, and it was at risk of ending. Not the brotherhood. It was going to be the brothers would be in a building one way or the other. New building, an apartment style building. But I wanted to be part of restoring and giving new life to this 100-year-old treasure of architecture. So for me, I felt really strongly that I was being pulled to both give back, to my time there, what it's done for me, and also to pay it forward to future generations and what it could mean for them. Didn't realize when I was in school that there were probably those before me that had given to keep the house running for that first 50 years. So I just felt as though it was my time. But then I saw Chuck and the amazing work he is doing, the unselfish work he's doing to provide his vision and architecture expertise to this project. And when I saw those first couple of videos walking through the house, seeing what it can now become and the scale of this operation, I decided to give a bit more. And in fact, I just decided to double the initial pledge that I made. And so for me, it was an easy choice. I talked it over with my wife, Chris, and we agreed that it was a perfect thing to do at the right time. So I want to see this 100-year-old treasure endure for many generations to come.
Indeed, you will. Thank you for your generosity. Anything else you'd like to share while we have the couple minutes?
Well, I guess I would just say it would be great if my fellow brothers, but as you said on this call, they probably are all donors already. But I would hope that my fellow brothers, especially from my era, would decide to give and give generously. And whether it's a new donation or if it's like in my case, if you've made a pledge already and are inspired to up that pledge a bit or even double it, that would be wonderful. I mean, so at that point, after this thing is said and done and the money is raised, we can all look forward to getting together next September and hopefully it'll come together in one of those weekends in September. I think we'll hear more about it as this meeting continues. But I can't wait to be there. So I'm really looking forward to it. I hope you guys are as well.
Well, I can't wait to shake your hand in person. Tell me of the reunion. If somebody's sitting on the fence whether to attend the reunion or not, what would you offer to that brother?
Did you say that again? Sorry.
Sure. If someone is sitting on the fence whether they should go to Champaign in September for the reunion or not, what would you say to that brother of yours?
What I would say, and this is a personal reflection because I'm of the older generations, as a mid-70s grad, but as we continue to grow older, there's just not going to be that many more of these kinds of opportunities to get together with our buddies and friends from, our immediate and adjacent classes, and even meet some of the younger generation classes and so forth, or even guys that are the rare number of guys that are older than my class, guys like Mike Clark and from his era. I want to go down there and see this for myself, this grand opening and this ribbon cutting, but also to see all the guys. I would say I would like people to go whether or not they are donors. I mean, you don't have to be a donor to be a loyal brother of DU, and my goal would be to have everybody do that. Just one last personal story to share, and it really brings it home for me is, so I told you about a thing that happened 2 years ago. Well, 5 years ago, 6 of us, brothers from my era, Tony Sutton, Walker Geyer, Kim Lewis, Mike Conan, Ken Hecht, and I embarked on a magnificent reunion at Tony's northern Arkansas kind of mountaintop retreat. He had something like 200 acres in northern Arkansas, and we met up there in the spring of 2019. We had a blast. I mean, we were doing the stuff that you would just expect. The 6 of us guys. It was four-wheeling. He owned 6 four-wheelers for us to bounce around the mountain on. We were axe throwing against wooden targets. We were eating, drinking, partying, doing the whole thing. And we had decided right then and there that we were going to do it again the next year or the years after, but it was not to be. As of now, 5 years later, 2 of the 6 of us are no longer with us. Tony is gone. Mike Conan is gone. And it just puts in perspective the need to take these treasured moments of the opportunity to have a reunion like this and see our brothers, beyond those little group get-togethers. I was just in Oregon recently for the Illini football game. It was a shitty football game. I mean, it was, Illinois didn't play well, but we didn't go there for that. We went there because it was going to be about half a dozen of us DUs that were going to get together in Eugene, Oregon, and see if we could, show our colors and hopefully stay out of trouble. And it was a great time. Well, so I'm looking forward to meeting brothers young and old in September and hope the rest can join us.
Yeah, the fun part is someone 35 years younger than you has the same guiding principles, and it's gonna be special. Thank you so much for your participation tonight and just in general. You're a real inspiration.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate you having me.